Now I request our professor to give keynote address on climate finance. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Prabhakar Reddy garu. Distinguished friends, it's a very tough topic for me because finance is not my very strong area. But however, I wish to bring a few points. Basically, I want to remind the global community that in contemporary world, most of the governments are controlled by their respective corporates, whatever corporates are operating in their countries. So corporates are dictating the terms, they are guiding the deliberations by proxy. And when we look at the number of private jets that have landed in Glasgow, because the other day the figure was more than 400, and we have only 200 countries, and not more than 50 countries executives can really fly in a private airliner. So that means most of the corporates are there, and they are continuously dictating the terms, and they want the deliberations to their advantage. Now the question is, as we go into the future, into the deliberations, I wish to bring certain very important points, and that is, I want everyone to realize that there is what is known as a corporate social responsibility. And this CSR, unfortunately, in this country, our political parties have reduced it to charity. That is, 2% of a certain amount of turnover should be given to charity. That is what they have, the law of the land, they have made it, which is wrong. The original meaning of corporate social responsibility was not charity. Because I have been following the deliberations, or a series of articles that were published about 20 years ago in the State of the World reports published by World Watch Institute, Washington. The idea of CSR, when it emerged in the last decade of the previous century, it was basically it was intended to discipline the corporates and compel them to work within the framework of the law. In addition to that, it was also expected that the corporates shall not do any illegal activity like, resort to illegal mining, pollute the air and the water, and, they should not be dumping their hazardous waste here and there. And it was also expected that they shall not employ children below 14 years, 15 years. In addition to all this, even when it comes to making whatever the wages are agreed upon, they cannot be paying anything less which was agreed. So there is what is known as, including the safety conditions within the factory. In other words, the corporates have to be respecting the constitution of the land and organizing its activity in a socially responsible way. By respecting, they need to realize that they need to protect the environment and at the same time the people. Now, what happened is, this was the original idea, and in the subsequent articles, I was very pleasantly surprised that in the West, quite a few transnational corporations, they started becoming green and greener. That is, looking at the writing on the wall, most of the corporates, particularly in the Western countries, they slowly started becoming people-friendly, environment-friendly. and they started, they developed a code of conduct where they would be, they deemed their functioning was deemed to be accountable and responsible. Well, the reason, what happened subsequently is that when an evaluation of the corporates was made, it was noticed that those companies which had a good corporate image, their share value started increasing in the market. Whether it is New York or any stock exchange, the share value of those companies or corporates where they enjoyed a good corporate image, that is, the share value increased, and the standard picture is about that coffee, what is that coffee which we see in the airports, Prabhakaran? There is one coffee which is world famous. Sugna Madam may be able to tell. American chain. Anyway, that is supposed to be the world's #1 environment friendly corporate. At the same time, they have taken care to ensure that there is no contamination of any kind, right from the plants or the cropping, from zero pesticides and absolute safe conditions, and ultimately till the end product. The price of the coffee is definitely higher, but the traveling people, particularly in the airports or anywhere in America, they would love to pay a little more, no problem, because health is no compromise on health. So similarly, there are so many other countries which started tripling their profits by being environment friendly, people friendly, maintaining the quality and even the finished product. And here I am reminded of Ralph Nader's, the famous consumer activist, the first and the most important activist. He's still alive, 87 years, and still he is lecturing. His lectures are very popular in Harvard University, Yale University, and so on. So I request our friends to keep in mind that any company which respects the law, environment, and people, takes care of the people, that over a period of time develops good corporate image and it commands the respect of the share market. There is one, why should a transnational corporation be environment friendly? That is a question. It is important because the corporates are dependent on the shareholders. And the shareholders, no shareholder would like to invest in a company which enjoys a negative image. For example, the Union Carbide, which resulted in Bhopal gas disaster, it registered that horrendous tragedy. I don't think anybody will continue to invest in that kind of an industry. So that is shareholder pressure, there is a market pressure, environmentalist pressure, and environmentalists are becoming more and more vocal, and even the courts are now coming down very heavily on the industries which are not disciplined. So here, my submission is that it is in their own interest that the corporates have to function within the framework of the law. Now, when it comes to COP26, again, we need to remember that there were 25 such conferences held earlier. Right now, the 26th is concluding today. And my friend Dr. Narasimha Reddy has analyzed the deliberations till yesterday. Just now I have gone through it, and I realize that it is the same old story. The developed countries are not too willing to open their finances or enable and empower the developing countries They are still not very eager to transfer the technologies, nor they are eager to transfer the money. The point is, what they transfer, that is the finances they promised to give earlier. 100 billion is nothing. The damage that they cause to the planet Earth runs into trillions of dollars. And what what was agreed upon 100 million is a pittance. As our Prime Minister Modi mentioned the other day, he talked about $1 trillion. But again, trillion also is nothing, because when nobody took the environmental, what we call the cost of environmental damage, the costs that would require, that is the finance that would require, that would go into the ecosystem restoration, it has not been planned so far. I'll give you one example. Who is going to pay for the loss of biodiversity? For the thousands and thousands of species which we have already lost? Who is going to pay for all the forests that went into flames last year? Which country is going to pay, or consortium of corporates is going to pay for the loss of ice near the North Pole and the South Pole and all the mountain tops? I mean, the losses because of this extravaganza of America, what we call the developed world, including Russia, China, India. We are no less, we are the fourth largest emitter. All this argument of per capita, release of carbon footprint, it doesn't really make sense now. In the initial years, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when these deliberations, initially started, I'm talking about on the Stockholm Conference, 1972 or 1992, when the initial talk was there about the increasing global warming and its impact on climate change. Even then, there was this talk about the demand by the developing countries, the small island countries. They were always demanding that the developed world, the word developed itself is wrong. We don't agree that they are developed countries, they are industrialized countries. But the word development was not defined by these corporates so far. It is only the World Commission on Environment and Development that first defined development and said that development should be sustainable. Now, these corporates, which originally started as money-making machines, some of them became environment friendly and they are comfortable. But the great majority of the corporates are still functioning like rogue, within inverted commas, rogue corporates. I mean, they think they are accountable only to their shareholders. They focus only on making money. And their reluctance, they don't want to share their surpluses for the protection of environment or climate mitigation. They are not going to empower the poor countries or the countries which are in distress because of this extravaganza of the European Union, Americans, Australians, Chinese, Russians put together. India also was acting in a very irresponsible way, and the Prime Minister's speech does not echo the agony of the poorest of the poor, nor the aspirations of the youngest of the young. India has the world's largest young population, but this population is going to face many climate challenges. And the government of India is not at all worried. It has never kept its word. They only talk about very good in an international conference. Most often, Indian prime ministers mention about a Sanskrit sloka, and then they spend their time explaining the sloka. They know jolly well that they are not going to comply with they are not going to implement the promises that they make globally. When it comes to implementation at the local level, they very conveniently forget. Therefore, summing up, this talk of climate finance, it is not just finance. It has to, it actually should, it should mean transfer of technologies with finance, and that too, the whole activity should be done with a sense of empathy for the poorest of the poor countries and the people living worldwide in Africa, in Latin America, in India, in Bangladesh, everywhere, wherever, there are billions of people, and any rise in the sea level is going to make it extremely difficult. It may also result in whole destruction of sovereign, independent island countries. Since the problem is very serious, it is now, it's time now that the citizens of all the countries, irrespective of the national frontiers, these 200 nation states, people should think beyond the national boundaries. They should learn to make a common cause, and they should hold their hands together worldwide and stand for the protection of the earth. Way back in 1970, when the first Earth Day was organized or observed, about 20 million people participated in different cities in so many countries. That was 1970. Now, 51 years later, as we enter the 52nd, once again, April 22nd, I think it's the citizens of the world should express their commitment for the protection of the planet Earth, but that has to be translated, and they have to exert pressure on the existing political parties and tell them point blank that they need to function, otherwise they need to make way. The climate is changing. The question is whether our governments will change. I thank Prabhakar Reddy Garu for the wonderful opportunity given to me. And I will stay connected because I need to listen to the others. Thank you. Anna, you need to.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your nice words. And it was really inspiring and interesting and thought-provoking ideas. You have appropriately, correctly pointed out that the corporate image is very important. If the corporate image is not there, shareholders will not be able to contribute to that particular company, and they will not be able to buy the shares. And it is one thing which is very important. Without damaging the environment, without contributing to the pollution, if the companies come forward and produce goods and services, then certainly the corporates will get very good image. And therefore, that is one thing. Second thing is that you rightly mentioned that these are not the developed countries, they are industrialized countries. Because when we say development, it is a process, it will not stop at particular point. Secondly, they lack commitment. They do not have sustainable development. They are not concerned about the people. So therefore, they are not developed countries by any measure. Rather, they are industrialized. They are going ahead with materialistic way of approach. Therefore, we can call them as industrialized countries. And third point that you mentioned is that not only resources, they need to transfer the technology and support to these developing nations. Then only there will be a kind of change that we will be able to see in environment. So thank you, sir. Thanks for your thought-provoking ideas.